This is News Today with Kirsty Meyer.
Sawasdee ka. We'll have a sneak preview of this week's The Phuket News later in today's program, but first, today's news. As the first peak of Phuket's rainy season approaches, the island's provincial officials have agreed to pay 60 million baht for flood protection projects. Priority works include a floodgate at the main klong in Patong to keep high seas out, widening the Beng Yai Canal and improving drainage in Koh Gao. May is one of Phuket's wettest months, the peak of the southwest monsoon, but it's only a taste of the heavier rains to come when the monsoon winds change direction later in the year. Heavy flooding in recent years have affected the main highway on the island near Bandung and along the airport road at Kathu. More details have emerged about the man who police say carried out a string of robberies in luxury West Coast hotels. Police say the 34-year-old Thai man has confessed to robbing safes at 6 hotels, 2 in Patong and 4 in the Kata Karon area. When arrested, his white Mercedes car was covered in black plastic, apparently in an attempt to disguise it. He also claimed to be the son of a member of parliament, but that turned out to be untrue. Disease-busting technology will be deployed in the filthy klong in the Phuket Samkong area of Phuket town that served for years as an open sewer. The so-called EM balls are basically balls of mud containing special microorganisms that can break down sewage. They were used during the floods in Bangkok a few years ago. Meanwhile, island officials have approved emergency funding for a water treatment plan in the Radi area, the source of much of the pollution in the klong. But they still need to find land for the treatment plant and build a network of sewers to supply it. They'll also run a public awareness campaign encouraging people in the area to use less water. And Labour Department officials have raided a wakeboarding park in Kathu and arrested 4 foreigners under the work permit laws, including the Russian owner. The raid on the Phuket Cable Ski Water Park on Kathu Waterfall Road is the latest sweep on foreigners thought to be working illegally. And the contract for lifeguards on Phuket's tourist beaches comes to an end in a few weeks, and talks are underway to prevent the beaches being left unprotected as they were for several weeks last year. The Phuket Lifeguard Club has asked for a budget of 20 million baht, but local media reports say provincial officials want to see more lifeguards on more beaches for their money. This year, more than 100 lifeguards have been stationed on more than a dozen West Coast beaches. But there's a danger that the beaches could again go unguarded during the monsoon months, when sea conditions are at their worst and most of the island's drownings occur. I'll be back with more news on Monday. Now time to find out what's in this week's brand new edition of the Phuket News with Phuket in Focus. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to Phuket in Focus. The brand new Phuket News is out on the stands. We have the managing editor in the studio, Simon Ostheimer. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
And we've got a great story on the front. This is a bit of a developing story that I'm sure we're going to see more of in the next couple of weeks, but we've got some bar girls busted in this case.
Yeah, well, technically dancers, performers. Headline...
Call it what you want.
Headline, Bangla bust, 11 arrested. Basically, there was a police raid on a bunch of bars and nightclubs in Patong on Bangla Road. One woman was arrested for dancing topless. She was actually found to have a work permit to be a dancer, so she was fined 500 baht and let go.
But not a topless dancer, no.
No, but the others were held on work permit related charges, and it's actually now emerging as part of a wider sort of crackdown on illegal workers.
And she would be the only topless dancer in Bangla Road, of course.
She was the only one arrested on the night.
Okay. This is a developing story though, because we have had on the Phuket News different stories over the past couple of weeks about raids on various companies.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're really taking the illegal foreign worker issue quite seriously.
And I think it's kind of basically a follow-on from the Russians in Bangtao when there was the crackdown on businesses there that were alleged to be owned by Russians or Russian managed, and the local people there, Tuk-Tuk Association as well, complained about this, and so the government has acted, and this seems to be a follow-through on that they're determined to sort of clean up Phuket from any kind of illegal workers. You can fall on both sides, I guess, of the debate about if it's a good thing, bad thing, but the one thing is if it's at least cleaned up and everybody is legal, there's nothing to complain about.
Exactly, as long as everybody's got a level playing field.
Yeah.
Now, another one of those ongoing issues is the black taxis, which ironically are white, up at the airport. What's the latest on that?
Well, there was a bit of to and fro between the airport authority and a local taxi cooperative about whether they were allowed to come into the airport to pick up passengers or not. And the airport authority saying, no, you're illegal, you're not registered, you don't have green plates, and we always have done this. So they've now come to an arrangement where they've agreed to be registered, licensed, and both sides are happy. And it's actually, we were talking about this before, but I think it's a good thing for Phuket. It's certainly not the final solution, but the fact that they're registering all these taxi drivers, they have their details on record. Maybe it's one small step towards finally having a proper meter taxi service. I may be optimistic, but I think that is the way they're doing it. I think they're doing it in a very sensible way, one step at a time.
The Phuket News website during the week has reported about the increase of Chinese tourists into Thailand and Phuket. Along with those tourists comes the tour guides.
Yep.
There's been some more problems with apparently illegal tour guides in the country.
Yeah, the sort of big protests outside Phuket Provisional Hall. You know, the governor's office. Basically, this was from Chinese-speaking Thai tour guides who complained that actual Chinese nationals are stealing work from them. They alleged that you know, the Chinese tour buses you see going around the island, that they actually have Chinese nationals working as guides on them, and in some cases that you have a Thai person who is meant to be the tour guide, and in fact they're just paid to sit there in case there is an issue or there is a problem, or if they are stopped. So again, this is part of the growing pains. You've got more Chinese, Koreans, Russians coming to the island, and of course there's a need to cater to them. And you could say supply and demand. Maybe there aren't enough of these speakers, you know, Russian, Chinese, Korean speakers to cater to the demand. So the solution would be to actually train people in these areas so that there wouldn't be a need for anyone to work illegally.
But the language is obviously always going to be a barrier.
Well, that's what I mean though. If there's specialist schools to be a tour guide or more educational institutes, language institutes, then Thai nationals should be able to take these jobs.
Not only tourists coming to the island, but the local tourist authorities are trying to get convention business, and that begs the question, where are we going to put them? The need for a convention centre.
Another sort of ongoing issue for the government. There's been talk for many, many years about building a convention centre here, and it's gone through multiple national governments, through Pheu Thai, through Thai Rak Thai, through the Democrats, and back again. We all agree that there's a problem. Someone needs to actually do something about it.
Okay, got a room next to your house?
Could do, yeah.
Okay. We'd have it here in our huge studio. Now, in the middle of the paper, as you have every week, we've got this wonderful Life section, the magazine, and on the front of that you've got, well, it's a bit of a food issue this week. Let's go through the brunches first. Fantastic photo at Indigo Pearl.
This is of the Indigo Pearl Sunday brunch. It's a very popular one on the island. I actually went along. It was fantastic, but there's a whole bunch of other great brunches as well. And it seems
brunches have become very popular.
Seems that there's a bit of an sort of emerging brunch scene on the island. People are sort of getting into the spirit of it. It's fun for sort of families, for singles, for friends just to get together.
But another great little place that you've covered in Life this week is Cafe Inn, one of the very new, very funky little cafes in what is becoming an increasingly funky cafe scene in Phuket town. Yeah,
well, in the old town specifically. It's a group of friends from high school, Phuket guys, and decided what they wanted to do now that they're all grown up, and the logical solution was open up a cafe together so they could hang out more.
Naturally.
Yeah. So it's a very, very cool little place. It just does snack food right now, but great coffees, and it's right next to the Tai Hua Museum, the old Peranakan Chinese museum.
Yes.
Down in Phuket town, and as you say, it's part of sort of an emerging scene. Every time I go down there, every week, it seems to be a new place opening up. It's very cool, trendy, and if people are watching and they don't go into the old town that much, and I've heard people in the past say it's confusing, they can't get the one-way system, I don't know anything in that area, it's worth persevering, and it's a great place to go down, and one of the few places you can actually walk.
Yeah, no, I think Phuket town is, in the next couple of years, going to become a tourist location in itself.
Yeah,
which is a good and bad thing, I suppose.
It's one of my favourite places on the island. Yeah, definitely.
Simon, thanks for joining us. Let's go and have a coffee. Simon Ostheimer from the Phuket News on Phuket in Focus.